Today, my wife and I are visiting Colonial Williamsburg, an amazing living history museum in Virginia that tells the early part of America's enduring story. Come along with me and my wife as we explore a history buff's paradise. That's coming up next.
Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, Karatim, Salwe, Shalom. I quite like that. I shall do that again. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Karatim, Salwe, Shalom. Yes, I like you all a great deal too. Stop, stop. My head shall not fit into my chapeau. Upon that, ladies and gentlemen, I am excessively pleased upon this occasion to deviate from matters political, to leave the oppressive heat of the council chamber to briefly address you, the good people of this city of Williamsburg and abroad travelers from far away. Now, as my name and reputation is fairly unknown, I hope you will allow me first and foremost the opportunity to proffer an introduction. For myself individually, I have had the privilege to walk with this experiment of government every step since its inception. Beginning here in 1776, carrying us now to this critical moment of 1779. I have sat as legislature, a representative advisor to two Virginian governors for this brief period of time. I'm here to speak from a title that we all share, that of citizen of an independent and, we hope, thriving experiment of government. My name, ladies and gentlemen, is James Madison, at your service. Stop. Not so much, we still have a ways to go. Now to that, as to the reasoning why we find ourselves herein assembled, having been engaged in open rebellion since His Majesty King George III declared it 4 years ago, having been embroiled in open warfare since those shots were fired at Lexington and Concord, we the people of America, from the taverns of New England to the tobacco fields of Virginia, debate what we will be. 3 years ago, we resolved unanimously for an independency from Great Britain, and from that have reared a new system. A system not derived from the usurped power of kings, of potentates, of crowns, of nobility, but instead an experiment derived from the legitimate power of the people. You can clap for that if you wish. Yes, yes, very good. Your patriotism is overwhelming. Now, with this independency, we have a chance that so few across the theater of the globe have been afforded. That is the chance to choose whatever system of government is most conducive to our life, to our liberty, and to the pursuance of our happiness. With this opportunity, we have chosen the most volatile, the most detrimental, the most turbulent system of government imaginable. Yes, we have chosen a republic. Not a republic that utilizes aristocracy, not a republic that utilizes the soi-disant nobility of man's blood, but rather instead a republic that utilizes the electric power of democracy. Now you seem intelligent, ladies. Can you tell me what democracy means? The ladies have done what so many philosophers have done over the course of history and remained silent. Because democracy is hard in practice, easy to define though. Democracy comes from two Greek words, demos, which means many, kratos, which means power. Thus, in combination, many have the power. Yet what is easy in definition has often proven hard in practice. When you look to the history of the world, in democratic experiments of government, you see that they ultimately fail. They are short in their lives. They are volatile in their deaths. I have often written that if every citizen of Athens were a Socrates, it still would have ended as a mob. The term democracy has become so unfavorable that it has become the sentiment of the world that people need kings. That kings and kings alone should govern the realms of men, but no longer in America. For these last several years, we have endeavored to prove history wrong. Now, friends, I need not masquerade or flatter. The situation in America is indeed without parallel, is it not? Come, is it not? We see every day the jaws of our enemy endeavor to close upon us, both north and south, do we not? We see every day the corruption of our Congress, do we not? We see every day the deficiency of our national charter, the Articles of Confederation not yet ratified, do we not? And we see every day our national deficit climb to a cataclysmic tens of millions of dollars. I know. Pick up your jaws. So then, ladies and gentlemen, why should I, a young statesman of an infant experiment of government, step away from the comfort of the legislation chamber to address you? Well, it should be for this brief period of time to rekindle the spirit of patriotism which has waned so consistently over the course of these last several years. To rekindle the bravery which embarked us upon this wilderness without a single footstep to guide us. To rekindle the unity that will always belong to the name of American citizen. As well as to satisfy whatever questions you have of me, James Madison, upon matters both public and private. Now, having given this brief introduction, I should first clarify to all of you, before I fully begin speaking publicly, that in general, I have a great anxiety for speaking publicly. I have been called by my friends as shy, which is true. I have been called by my rivals and a great many ladies as cold, which is also true. And I was called by a former governor of Virginia, Mr. Patrick Henry Esquire, the most unsocial imp of a creature who has ever existed. This is also true. He told me once I would never have a personal argument because I have no personality. But I need not focus upon ostentation. No, we are all friends, yes, at least I certainly hope so. Friendship, like all truth, delights in plainness. Simplicity, it is the counterfeit alone that requires ornament and ostentation. So, with the time that we have, allow me to better acquaint myself with you, from whence you all travel and whence you all reside. By the raising of hands, how many of you count yourselves as dwelling and residing upon the northern provinces of Massachusetts Bay, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Delaware, New York? Welcome. Next, from Virginia, the largest, the wealthiest, the best of these independent states. Welcome. Next, we speak of the South, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. Welcome, welcome. And last of all, from the western provinces, the terra incognita, forts of Chicago, Detroit, Pittsburgh, extending all the way to the Mississippi River and beyond. Welcome, welcome. I'm excessively pleased to speak of all of you. You know, I have reflected, ladies and gentlemen, of late through the crucible of war upon what grounds this experiment of government has been fostered. How we sit truly different from the previous confederations of government. And from that, I cannot help but marvel at the fortuitous and enlightened age into which we find ourselves thrust within. We sit truly upon the most fortunate grounds that any people have thus been afforded. The diffusion of the printed word exists at a height and climb to which it has never before been given. We can sit within the solitude of our libraries, our studies, and travel the vast theater of the globe. Travel through time, travel through space, speak to those who are long dead, and from that commit an intellectual resurrection. We can learn from the successes of the past, and moreover, we can learn from the failures of the past. To my mind, that is what this experiment of government is built upon. Ideas. It is our ideas that unify us. Would you know it was the great philosopher Thomas Hobbes who says the greatest danger to kings is young people reading books, because it makes them fall in love with ideas, not with men. When we put forward the words of our Declaration of Independence 3 years ago, we did not venerate the people of America for their virtues. Men are corruptible, men are flawed. I have often said that if men were angels, no system of government would be necessary. But what is government if not the purest reflection of human nature? The miracle of this experiment of government is that it is founded upon ideas, that we are a people not of one creed, not of one color, not of one climate, but of one singular idea, that it is possible to prove history wrong, and that while no system of government will be perfect, we will endeavor at every step to make something more perfect. This step would be miraculous enough if we were not embroiled in war, but the fact that as cannon and cutlass is discharged, as blood is mingled in the ground, still we endeavor to step and perfect this union, this experiment. I will not masquerade to you, friends. There are those who sit with expectation that this experiment will fail, that it will join the misguided confederations of the past, that the kings of Europe will smile as yet another proof is put forward that man is incapable of governing themselves. Every day we find new reasons to divide ourselves. Every day we find new reasons to prove that we are stronger as enemies than we are as kindred. What advice should I then, a young man wishing to grow old in a free country, bestow upon you? It should be to hearken not to the unnatural voice which tells you that the people of America, knit together as they are by so many cords of affection, cannot be members of the same family, cannot be the mutual guardians of their mutual happiness, cannot be children of one flourishing empire. Hearken not to the voice which says this system is a novelty in the political world. It has no place in the wildest of projectors or rashest of intents. No. My beloved friends, shut your ears to that unhallowed language. Shut your hearts to the poison that it conveys. Remember in America that while we respect our history, we do not suffer a blind veneration or antiquity over our common sense. Remember that we ever ought be a people who dare, a people who include rather than turn away. I asked you moments ago to raise your hand from whence you came, and I will ask something else of you before we open this discussion towards whatever realm you wish to turn it. I shall ask you to raise your hands once more if you count yourselves American. The things that unite us, be they small or be they large, will ever be greater than the smaller things that divide us. But from that, friends, as I am still standing despite the heat, to my own surprise, I should wonder if we might allow you, the people of this city, to steer the conversation further. I shall allow you to ask whatever questions you have of me, James Madison, upon matters private, public, animal, vegetable, mineral, past, present, future. We can speak of the weather or tell jokes if you like. It matters very little to me. But I thank this woman to be the first to ask a question and rescue me from myself. Yes, madam.
As such a young man, facing elders who don't agree with your very forward thinking, how do you maintain your enthusiasm and energy?
The woman inquires, being somewhat young and constantly lacking in the experience of many of my seniors, how do I consistently keep my enthusiasm? Madam, I'm a boring creature and have no great enthusiasm, to be sure. And yet I will say I was initiated into this revolution young. I'm a child of revolution. When I left the College of New Jersey in 1773, all of our valedictory addresses, we, the young men who would soon be inheriting this continent, were upon revolution, upon the inequity of property upon this continent, about the critical minute that we were all faced with. We did this in a room of men fourscore, our seniors, who have long possessed their wealth, who have long held their tradition. And they did what so many old men have done over the course of history. They complained about these young people speaking their minds. He said we should stick to Latin, stick to Greek, stick to arithmetic, that our unfledged wings could not soar to the heights needed to contemplate political principles in these uncertain times. Now, the president of the College of New Jersey, John Witherspoon, said he was proud of the spirit of liberty cultivated amongst his students and faculty. He further said in Latin that vigilantibus non dormientibus jura subjuant. The law serves the vigilant, not those who sleep. So how then have I compensated being a fairly junior member of the legislature, of now the executive, in the face of older men of experience? It has been equipping myself with the most degree of knowledge. Knowledge governs ignorance. If a person wishes to govern themselves, both in government or by their demeanor, they arm themselves with the power that knowledge gives. So though I am junior in years, I ensure that when I step, be it into council chamber, be it into legislature, or, madam, be it into any household within this city, I ensure that I arrive as the most informed individual in the room. It has been this that has allowed me to advise gentlemen far more my senior. It will be this that will eventually catch the ear of His Excellency, General Washington, and will establish a relationship whereby, though he is much my senior, it will be me who advises him upon matters political. Were I to move further into the future, all hypothetical, mind you, I could see a day where, should the general be one day elected President of the United States, he would even, though I am much his junior, approach me to write his inaugural address anonymously. At this point, Congress, knowing my aptitude for the pen, would approach me to write the congressional response to that inaugural address, anonymously, of course. President Washington, being so moved by this, will once more approach me to write a response to that response. Congress, so moved by that, will ask me to write another response. The authors of these various responses will become very complimentary of the eloquence of the writer. In fact, it could be said that the beginnings of our federal government are just James Madison mumbling to himself. But that's all hypothetical, of course. I believe we have time for one last curiosity before I turn from liquid to solid, or solid to liquid in this instance. Yes, the gentleman there.
Given such a new beginning, and even at a young age, there'll be those that will come beyond and after you. How would you advise them?
How would I advise the gentleman who endeavored to come after me? Don't. Yet the gentleman raises a question. Being somewhat young in years, being filled with certain ideas, there will be individuals who will oppose the radical views that I hold. I do not masquerade. I hold very controversial ideas when it comes to religion and its relationship with government. Already, I have put forward rivalries with those who believe that the legislation of religion is the sole metric whereby morality may be put forward in a government. So how should I advise those individuals who endeavor to debate with me? Well, I should say first and foremost, come with fact, not opinion. Come with logic, not emotion. But there's a greater lesson in that is not exclusive only to myself. How do we, with civility, disagree with our fellow mankind? Now, in a utopic system of government, we will all have the same opinion, right? Everyone will get along, huh? We have all evidence since the very beginnings of government to show that is not the case. Cain will always slay Abel. Samson will always tear the columns down. Pharaoh will always become tyrant over the people of Egypt. We need government because in nature we do not get along. So how do we accommodate the differences of those who would have a differing opinion than us? First, do not label them rivals or aliens. One of the greatest tactics of government, executed first by Julius Caesar in war, is divide et impera, divide and... In a popular system of government, your government will always endeavor to divide you. Faction is an inevitability in government, and man will never live peacefully with those who he regards as damned. So from there, remember the general spirit that unites all. A general spirit which rises above differences of opinion. And put not forward the sophistry which has so often deceived mankind. When you debate someone, do not debate the man. Debate the idea. For the man is your brother, your sister, your family, your friend. From there, find an accommodation. Be willing to be wrong. Make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing more powerful in government than the ability to change one's mind. For in that we find compromise, and in that compromise, somewhere beyond your views and the views of your neighbor, is truth. And should not a government stand for truth? That is my sentiment upon it. But how I cope with individuals who are my political enemies, I tend to wear black so they don't see me sweat. And moreover, sir, I remove all emotion from my debate, which makes me very frustrating to debate with. I simply put forward what I believe to be are facts, and those facts, robbed of all emotion and a bias, tend to be fairly persuasive. Someone will say of me, when asked who the most eloquent of the founding generation was, would say it was a tie. If the art of persuasion was the art of eloquence, Patrick Henry, of course, would be the most eloquent. Yet if the art of eloquence were the art of convincing, it would fall to me. But that was just one man's opinion. Make no mistake, there are plenty others who will have contrary things to say about James Madison. Our friends, time wanes too quickly. Now, because of the heat, we must cut our time together short. But I will leave you with this. I hope that this city of Williamsburg should for you always be as enlightening as it is restorative. You will always find a friend amongst myself and my contemporaries. And that wherever you move next, be it blacksmith or bakery, you find ideas worth passing on. Until we meet again, and I do pray we do meet again, I remain your humble servant, James Madison. Good day.
Well, that's a wrap for this Colonial Williamsburg video. I hope you really enjoyed it, getting to see another part of this amazing living history museum. If you like this sort of stuff, check out my other videos. Check out colonialwilliamsburg.org to plan your own visit here, because it's so much cooler in real life than it is on film. Till next time, this is History Buff, TN Photobug signing out, and I'm having a blast with the past.